What if a devoted guardian of his sacred space as the first light of dawn broke over the serene American town, it cast a gentle glow upon the streets, awakening the spirit of the day. Image of the Blessed Mother into the discard, only to discover that one simple deed could set in motion a series of occurrences that no mortal could reason provide clarity. On the 12th day of June, in the year 2025, within the quaint little town of Springfield, Iowa, the streets were still enveloped in the stillness that envelops the world before dawn breaks. Within the humble walls of the Asylum Mosque, transformed years ago from a forsaken storefront, Imam Rashid Mansouri gently urged, "Open the door to welcome the dawn of a new day." Devotion. For 8 years, he had been a devoted servant, living out his faith with unwavering dedication, constant support for his community. An individual held in high regard by followers of Islam as well, additionally by community leaders who viewed him as a gentle and wise guidance. On that blessed morning, all appeared to be quite usual. The rugs were neatly aligned, sacred texts stacked with compassion, the subtle aroma of incense echoing from the evening prior. However, as Rashid made his way toward the mi'ab, a sense of purpose guiding his steps captured his attention. Resting gently against the wall, in the most sacred part of the sanctuary, was a cherished portrait. It wasn't of that faith. Beautiful lettering. It wasn't a chapter from the Holy Scripture. It was undeniably the Blessed Mother, Mary, with her hands gently folded in prayer, gauzes upward, elevated towards the divine, a gentle radiance enveloping her. A replica of the vision of Our Lady, the radiant frame, embracing the gentle glow of the early morning light. Rashid stood still, caught in a moment of profound stillness. His heart raced with fervor. Who possessed? Did someone leave this here? And why in this place? In the priest, every location directed towards the sacred city. Fury welled up within. His beliefs had consistently guided him to understand that depictions were not allowed, that linking, to align oneself with the divine, was the gravest transgression. To him, this felt like a test of faith. With hands that quivered, he raised the frame. Beside the town's refuse container stood, waiting in the quiet of the alley, nearly devoid of, reflecting, compelled by a deep sense of duty to safeguard the sacredness of the place. He cast aside the image within. The frame struck the metal, resonating with a muted sound. Accomplished, he murmured softly to himself. However, rather than relief, an unusual weight descended upon his heart as he made his way back to the place of worship. He found it impossible to dispel the vision that lingered in his mind. The gentle gaze of a mother, filled with love and compassion, who had recently faced abandonment. The more I attempted to set it aside, the more intense it became. An unsettling feeling began to take hold. In that fleeting instant, had transformed, though he could not yet speak its name. Springfield, Iowa, had always been a place where faith and community intertwined, creating a tapestry of shared experiences and heartfelt connections. Resembled the quintessential image of a quaint village, land of opportunity. Grain silos stood tall at the edge of the village, their silhouettes casting a gentle embrace. Fields of corn that extended to the horizon, filled with hope. Main Street was a 2-block row of sturdy brick structures where the diner offered a hearty breakfast of eggs accompanied by a steaming cup of black coffee. As the first light of dawn broke, the hardware store transformed into a gathering place, the place of whispers. At the heart of it all, there stood 2 buildings that conveyed the tale of a fractured harmony. St. Martin Church, with its century-old, the bell tower stands proudly. merely 2 streets away. The humble Asylum Mosque, a transformed autogage adorned in a soft beige hue. On Sundays, the bells of St. Martin chimed with a joyful resonance, inviting families through the ages who had cultivated this land for more than centuries. Brave men and women who have served in battles far from home sat side by side with farmers in sturdy footwear, prayer beads swaying gently from their unfeeling hands. The parish hall was filled with a familiar aroma of casseroles and coffee. After the sacred gathering, a cadence that remained timeless, the decade of the 1952nd. On Fridays, the atmosphere was filled with a gentle buzz, distinct, numerous individuals, a good number adorned in reflective vests from the meatpacking plant, removed their boots at the entrance of the mosque. They arrived from Algeria, Morocco, Sudan, and Pakistan. Newcomers attracted to Springfield by reliable work and the assurance of security. Women in head coverings exchanged salutations. Little ones dashed joyfully between the prayer rugs, and English intertwined with Arabic and Urdu in the humble entrance. 2 communities coexisting in close proximity, yet barely intersecting in life's journey. At the farmstead market on Saturdays, faith-filled grandmothers shared their delicious pies while embracing their faith. Families gathered to purchase sweet corn by the dozen, sharing in the simple joys of the season. Respectful hostures were shared, yet discussions seldom ventured beyond, "Good morning. How was the weather today?" For 15 years, they had shared their lives together. Springfield flows like 2 parallel rivers, near enough to listen to one another, never truly uniting. Yet, unease remained palpable beneath the surface of civility. A few members of the community whispered that the place of worship was out of place, that the invitation to reflect, though never echoed through the air, experienced unfamiliar. Some murmured that the believers regarded them with disdain, holding tightly their rosaries with a sense of doubt, yet there were also gentle acts of kindness. Father Anthony Dubois, shepherd of the parish community at St. Martin, frequently shared with his congregation that the followers of Islam were considered people of the Scripture and earned reverence. He had even participated in a gathering for an evening meal at the mosque during Ramadan. However, many members of the congregation found it peculiar. On the other side, Imam Rashid encouraged his gathering to witness their faith, neighbors as beloved members of a shared faith, reminding them that Mariam was esteemed in the Holy Scripture. Yet, virtuous intentions seldom graced the headlines of the Springfield Gazette. Whispers spread. The year a young person caused a disturbance in a place of worship, the sound of a BB gun shattering the stillness. Hushed murmurs began to circulate that it had been the followers of Islam when the halal butcher shop has unexpectedly closed its doors, leaving some in the community surprised. Whispered that the faithful had refused to participate. The reality was often diminished, dramatic, yet doubt blossomed like wildflowers in the crevices of the pavement. That is why Rashid's not doing well with discarding an image of the Blessed Mother, though not visible by anyone that morning, would not endure, concealed in a town already teetering on delicate threads of faith. Even the slightest, a small spark, has the potential to start a great fire. At this moment, Springfield retained its serene charm. In a world filled with trials and tribulations, there are tales that inspire and uplift the spirit. These narratives often reflect the profound journey of faith, illustrating the power of hope and redemption. Each story serves as a reminder of the divine presence in our lives, guiding us through moments of darkness towards the light of grace. Through the lens of compassion and love, we find strength in community and the enduring belief in something greater than ourselves. These accounts resonate deeply, offering wisdom and encouragement to all who seek solace and understanding. The bell tower of Martin loomed, its shadow stretching across the land. Through the park where little ones frolicked, the joy of summer baseball. The mosque's shimmering glass, the door shimmered with the vibrant hues of the neon light, a glowing diner sign illuminating the night. Life continued as commonplace, two realms existing in harmony. However, beneath the serene surface, an unseen presence lingered, transforming, akin to the gentle echo of distant storms. In a distant expanse of the prairie, and Rashid, even as he resumed his everyday life practices, instructing in Arabic at the community center, reaching out to families and was unable to quiet the vision that gazed at him from the refuse. The tranquil gaze of Mary remained ever radiant. His heart, what they were all unaware of at that moment. Neither the clergyman pouring his morning, the warm beverage, nor the devoted member organizing lies in the sanctuary, nor the newcomer, a mother lovingly weaving her daughter's hair, that Springfield was on the brink of experiencing a tale that would challenge all they held dear, the principles of belief, mercy, and the profound strength of a mother's affection. The morning prayers concluded. Yet the Imam Rashid's thoughts were a whirlwind of turmoil. 12 men had knelt beside him, their gentle echoes of faith ascending and falling like waves in the softly illuminated place of worship. On the surface, everything appeared extraordinary. Yet within, his mind was entwined like the brambles of a wild thicket. He had accomplished what any spiritual leader would do, he reminded himself. An image within a mosque was deemed unacceptable, worship of false idols. To safeguard the holiness of in that moment, he knew he had to take action. Still, the recollection of Mary's painted gaze seemed to watch over him. Gentler, more piercing than admonition, more intense than remorse. Each time he shut his eyes, her image appeared before him, hands clasped in prayer, eyes raised towards the divine as if inquiring of him a question he was unable. Response. In the quiet of his modest office, Rashid opened a sacred text and let his fingers skim through the cherished chapters. He desired comfort, assurance. His gaze settled upon verses celebrating the unity of the divine, and yet uninvited, another verse emerged in his recollection, one he had shared numerous moments within the sacred space and recounted in the book. Mary, when she stepped back from her family to a destination in the east, we offered her our spirit, and we created, she and her son serve as a beacon for everyone. Chapter 19 of the Holy Qur'an, titled Mariam. The words echoed in his ears. How many times had he shared with his students that Mary received recognition, exalted among all women, that she was immaculate, selected, elevated? Why then had he experienced only frustration when her likeness emerged in the place of worship? He reclined in his chair, shrouding his visage with both hands. He could nearly perceive the whisper of his grandmother, Icha. From his early years in Allurs, she had resided in a small earthen dwelling, a home graced by the presence of an olive tree in the yard. Each evening, as the sacred invitation to reflection resonated throughout the community, she would gather her beloved grandchildren and share those narratives. My dear child, she had softly spoke, her aged hands gently arranging his hair. Keep this in your heart. Mary, Sayyidah Mariam is our beloved sister in the spirit of faith. She was chosen above all others, a testament to her unique grace and virtue. To speak ill of her is to speak ill of our own mother. To pay tribute to her is to pay tribute to the divine. That memory hit with the force of a divine revelation. It left him in awe. Had I just spoken out of turn? Her? He rose suddenly, moving back and forth. Workplace. The place of worship was serene at this moment. The men have returned to their work at the workplace or farmland. In solitude. Rashid sensed the stillness enveloping him. He reflected on the moment at the dumpster, the sound of metal, striking metal, the radiant frame striking the steel. The path, his heart tightened instead of discovering serenity. All day, a sense of disquiet lingered around him, while imparting knowledge of Arabic at the local community center. He tripped over words while on a quest for sustenance. He neglected to remember a portion of the list his beloved spouse had provided him. His thoughts continually returned to the similar reflection. What if it was something that stirred the spirit? Else, by evening, even his beloved spouse, Fatima, observed, "You seem weary." She spoke softly, placing a hearty dish of lamb stew. Is it the place of worship? The community? Rashid shook his head in disbelief. Just fatigue, he said, though she could see through his facade. Improved. She had carried his burdens for 2.5 decades. In his gaze, she could perceive a depth of emotion, something deeper than restlessness. Yet she refrained from pushing further, allowing the quiet to speak for itself. It is a labor of love. That evening, as he got ready for my prayer, the uncertainty weighed heavier. For, after many years, he found himself pausing at the entrance to the sacred space of worship. The purpose was to shepherd, to enlighten, to inspire, but how could he guide others when he found himself wandering in uncertainty? The sacred text's verses resonated within him like a dialogue of two spirits. Struggle. One proclaiming the divine's unwavering truth, unity. The other honoring Mary as innocent, selected, honored. Which voice was it? What is the truth? Or were they perhaps in harmony all along, but intricately intertwined in a manner he had never thought about? Rashid gently closed his eyes and murmured softly, "O Lord, lead me," he whispered. Yet, within his heart, he already felt the truth within. He would not discover tranquility until he encountered the image once more. The same image, now resting in the shadows, the depths of a refuse container, situated behind the mosque, and although he was not yet aware of it, that restless tug was not simply a feeling of guilt. It was a call to action. A mother's gaze disturbed his spirit. And the divine was absent, finished with him yet. The sun had long descended beneath the vast Iowa cornfields, departing Springfield, enveloped in the gentle embrace of a Midwestern summer. Evening, the street lamps whispered softly along the serene streets, their lights illuminating through weathered pathways and well-kept gardens. For the majority of the town, it was on a Thursday evening, but for Imam Rashid, Mansouri, everything felt extraordinary. He spent the entire day reflecting on an image that remained hidden from all others. He had instructed his Arabic students with a thoughtful spirit, engaged in discussions at the grocery store, even offered a prayer, on evening prayer lacking concentration. Yet, an image has been returned, Mary's gentle gaze, cast aside amidst the remnants of fruit and brew, land. At long last. He could endure it. No, extended. After leading the evening prayers at the place of worship, he paused, securing the door gently as his faithful followers meandered into the darkness. "Father, are you in good spirits?" An elderly gentleman inquired. Rashid compelled a grin. "Indeed, my dear brother, I find myself weary." However, as the final echoes of footsteps disappeared, he remained standing solitary on the pavement, keys quivering in his hand, rather than looking to his dwelling on Cedar Avenue. He traversed the lot and paused before the creased, refuse container. The cover was shut. The metal, cool sides glisten with evening dew. His heart secured, he looked around, surveying the surroundings. Desolate passageway, void of life. Only the distant echo of the sound of a train echoed in the distance, accompanied by the gentle chirping of crickets. His company, for an extended period. He paused. What is my purpose here, he pondered, searching through discarded items with a sense of purpose. Nevertheless, an inner voice began to resonate more profoundly. Proceed. She remains in hopeful anticipation. With a deep breath, he gently raised the lid. The foul odor of decaying food assaulted his senses. With his sleeve drawn across his face, he leaned in, seeking with intent. His hands, weathered cardboard, synthetic material, wrinkled, document. Then something firm, chilling. He liberated it from its grasp. And beneath the streetlight cast a warm glow, its golden frame shining brightly. The image remained unblemished, though slightly askew. Mary's face, tranquil and full of grace, looked back upon him. For a moment, Rashid simply paused, remained still. A moment suspended in the air, itself had come to a standstill. He softly murmured, without hesitation, "Yeah, Mariam, what brings us to this place?" "Why me?" His voice trembled. The words, experiencing a deep connection in both Arabic and English. For unfathomable reasons. Tears clouded his sight. He carefully polished the glass, ensuring it sparkled with clarity. With his handkerchief, each gentle stroke softer than before, as if he were holding something delicate and sacred. He had cast it aside in a moment of frustration. At this moment, he saved it with a quivering sense of awe. Within, in that dimly lit alley, he sensed a presence surrounding him. Not seen, yet unheard, but undeniably present, as genuine as the night air filled his lungs. The gentle embrace of love enveloped his soul, strange, yet clear, akin to existing enveloped in a mother's loving arms. Rashid gazed upward at the stars twinkling in the heavenly expanse. "Am I losing my way?" he whispered, a hint of concern in his voice. Or could this be a divine message? The stillness provided no response, merely the whisper of foliage and the haunting melody of a nightbird echoing through the stillness. However, in that stillness, his uncertainty started to yield into something greater. Not assurance, not yet, but yearning. With great care, he placed the image resting on the passenger seat of the vehicle, fastening the strap as though it were living. He lingered for a moment, hands clutching the steering wheel. "Unable to journey." The words of his grandmother resonated deeply. once more. Honor Mariam. She is one of us. Everything. He was unable to bring back the image to the place of worship. It would cause great outrage among his community. He was unable to hold on to it. Sanctuary. His family would struggle to comprehend. His gaze wandered down the street toward the steeple of St. Martin's, softly illuminated against the skyline. A reflection emerged, untamed and daring. Perhaps it would be best for her to leave. Returning to those who came before, referred to her as Our Lady. Rashid began the engine. The vehicle glided along the deserted road, the thoroughfare, until it came to a halt next to the side entrance of the church. The figure of Mary standing in her stone niche seemed to possess a vibrant spirit in the glow of the lamplight, with arms wide and a gentle gaze, reminiscent of the figure in his place. His heartbeat resounded in his ears. He emerged, frame in hand. "Pardon me," he softly spoken in Arabic. "I was unaware of your presence." Endum arrived with goodwill as he set down the image at the foot of the statue. The relief glimmered over him like a gentle blessing. But then, journey. A door slowly creaked open, revealing the mysteries that lay beyond. A gentleman and he ventured into the darkness of the night. Priest, Father Anthony Dubois, the devoted shepherd of the parish. The two men stood still, the atmosphere around them thick with tension, rich with astonishment. And in that moment, an unexpected meeting, a fresh beginning of the tale of their town was on the verge of unfolding. The sturdy wooden side entrance of St. Martin, the doors of the church slowly swung open, and a rectangle of warm light poured onto the stone steps. Father Anthony emerged from the shadows. Dubois, his dark cloak sweeping upon the earth, his shimmering locks illuminating the path. He had emerged merely to secure the doors after an evening of documentation, yet what he beheld brought him to a halt. In his path, there at the base of a statue of Mary stood before Imam Rashid, cradling a beautifully adorned picture in a golden frame. In the stillness, the heartbeat echoed, and silence enveloped them both. The village, the clock chimed 9 in the distance. Its whispers breaking the stillness. Father Anonis, the voice carried a sense of reverence. Soft and measured. "Blessed evening to you. How may I assist you today?" Rashid's. My throat tightened. He was not a man who words can be forgotten with ease. He had delivered his message, instructed, discussed, yet in that instant, shame held him captive. He took it in, struggling, adjusting the frame for the clergyman, was able to perceive. "I came across this picture," he started, his voice imbued with a rich lilt. "It was in my place of worship this morning near the mikra. I perceived it as a challenge. So, I decided to let it go." He paused, shame igniting upon his countenance. "However, I was able to do not abandon it there. Someone continued to draw me in, and I pondered, perhaps it is meant for you." Father Antonidrefniar, the glow of the lamp illuminating his path, unveiling his traits, gently transforming with acknowledgement. He gently pressed his fingers against the glass, softly, as if reassuring that it wasn't a vision. His eyes brimmed with tears. Oh, my God," he whispered. "This is our beloved Lady of my dear friends. It has been 3 days since it vanished from our sight. The sacred, we worried it had been taken from us." He cast upward in disbelief. "You claim it was in Your place of worship? Rashid nodded still, holding onto the frame. I'm uncertain how to proceed. The doors remained securely shut. No one compelled. It simply existed. And I responded, in moments of haste, I seek your understanding. I ask for forgiveness. As time has passed, in that fleeting instant, the two men remained motionless, lost in contemplation. A spiritual leader sharing his heart with a devoted clergyman beneath the watchful eyes of the Blessed Mother. The silence enveloped the space, heavy yet filled with a sense of peace. There was an essence within it that seemed divine, as if the very air seemed to be attuned. At last, Father Anthony spoke, his tone gentle and compassionate. You have restored her. That is what. Rashid shook his head, a sense of resolve washing over him. No, I betrayed her initially. My spirit is not at serenity. His voice faltered, phrases spilling forth, quicker now. Throughout the day, I sensed her gaze upon. I recalled the wisdom of my grandmother. Mariam holds a special place in the hearts of many, selected by the divine, virtuous among all. So why did I turn away from her likeness? Why did I dismiss? He looked at her with compassion in his gaze. Perhaps, dear brother, for grace often arrives in a hidden form. We stand against it beforehand. We acknowledge it. Rashid cast his gaze downward, gripping the frame with fervor. The urge was to debate, yet there was a deeper feeling in the voice of Father Anoni had a way of soothing his troubled spirit. Instead, he softly murmured, what if this was not by chance? What if she was destined to? Will I discover it there? The inquiry lingered. In the night, like a prayer ascending. Priest Anthony posed, contemplating his response. Instead, he took a step back, revealing the entrance to the church is more inviting, soft glow and the delicate aroma of beeswax candles wafted through the air. Out, come, the priest invited softly. If it is your desire, let us bring her back. United, Rashid stood still at the entrance, a moment of pause enveloping him. For a Muslim leader, is stepping into a Catholic, the church at night seemed almost unimaginable. Transgressing a boundary that unites us all, anticipated his crossing. As he gazing at the serene expression of the statue, then returning my gaze at the priest's open hand, he sensed an unforeseen tranquility enveloped him. With a gentle nod, Rashid acknowledged the moment. United in purpose, they brought the image into the shadowy aisle of St. Martin's. The vibrant stained glass, the windows shimmered softly in the soft glow. Holy figures captured in vibrant hues. Quietude. At the altar, Father Anthony stood with reverence, set the image of Mary in an upright position, arranging the blossoms surrounding it. It was the first time that day that Rashid felt a stirring in his chest. Released, he let out a long, deep breath, as if laying aside a weight he had borne for far too long. Lengthy. Father Anthony gazed at him, his eyes constant. Imam Rashid, perhaps Mary has united us for a purpose. Rashid swallowed hard, his voice barely escaping his lips. Perhaps, in the quiet moments of reflection, we find the threads of faith weaving through our lives. Unbeknownst to them, the hushed conversation at the stroke of midnight would not be forgotten. A hidden truth, as the week draws to a close. Rumors would circulate, doubts would glow, and the entire community of Springfield would be observing. However, at this moment, beneath the tender gaze of Mary, two men, individuals of varying beliefs, stood together. their hearts in turmoil, yet, oddly, joined together. On the serene Sunday mornings in Springfield, had always adhered to the same sacred cadence, families dressed in their finest shirts, enjoying the warmth of summer, dresses adorned with the spirit of Saint Martin, place of worship. The bells resonate throughout Main pathway. Within the walls, Father Anthony delivered his sermon, a heartfelt reflection on the theme of forgiveness and faith, the type of message that typically floated gently above the assembly like a serene stream. However, on this specific, on Sunday, a different kind of energy stirred beneath the surface. The surface, soft murmurs, fleeting looks, an unquiet spirit, shuffling. It all started with Margaret LeBron, a devoted member of the community, renowned for arranging lilies on the altar. That, in the early hours, as she arranged the vibrant blooms by the statue of Our Lady, she observed something peculiar. The picture within the golden frame rested gently against the pedestal. Delicate scratches on the glass, and a gentle and unpleasant scent, as if it had lingered, moments spent in places lacking value. She inhaled sharply, clutching her heart with a gentle touch. By the time the service concluded, Margaret had already shared with 3 companions. "The image has been found," she whispered urgently. "However, it appears to be in poor condition. There is an odor reminiscent of nonsense." Her words traveled swiftly through the congregation, every recounting blossomed, more refined, as it made its way to the prophet. The journey through the parish steps revealed a remarkable transformation in the tale. Into the image of Our Lady was cast into the refuse. Outside the radiant church, the congregation assembled on the lawn, groups alive with curiosity. Some expressed their astonishment with a shake of the head. Others tightened their grips. The concept that anyone would tarnish the sacred image of Mary was beyond imagination. And in Springfield, where faith served as the foundation, identity, it was a challenge too great to overlook. The whispers intensified as a solitary figure emerged from the crowd. Bernard Black, a former Army sergeant who has hung up his uniform and embraced a new chapter in life. Known for their straightforwardness, this was not an incident, he proclaimed, his gravelly voice bearing a sacred responsibility. Someone placed her in the refuse, and I believe we are all aware of the culprit. Engage in such an act. No names were uttered, spoke openly at first. Yet the underlying meaning lingered. Burdensome. Eyes naturally gravitated toward the block where the place of worship stood. Its humble exterior harmonizing with the community. Storefronts. That afternoon, the sun cast a warm glow over the landscape, inviting a sense of peace and reflection. Soft murmurs ascended from the church steps to mobile devices. In the heart of Springfield, a message in the community's online gathering place appeared. Our Bishan image of the Virgin Mary was discovered today in a state of great distress. Condition: it appears to have been discarded in the refuse. This is unacceptable. Who would disregard our beliefs in such a manner? Within an hour, the post attracted numerous reflections. Some expressed grief, while others, frustration. Numéro 2. One individual expressed, "We ought to visit the mosque." Another added, "It's curious how things seem to disappear and find themselves close to them." The process did. The remainder, by nightfall, the message had accumulated more than 300 shares, touching every corner of town. Screens illuminated in diners, on machines, even in the gathering space at the meat-packing plant. The term desecration was murmured in Springfield like a gentle breeze, flowing through the very fabric of the building. In the meantime, Father Anthony sat in his humble abode, his hands cradled in hands around a mug of cooling coffee. He had already come across the post. His stomach knotted with apprehension. He understood the revelation that Rashid had come back. Imagine, with humility and serenity. Yet he also understood that the community wasn't prepared for such a revelation. Subtlety. If the reality were revealed too, frankly, the Imam might find himself ostracized, and the delicate bond of faith that connects communities would come together. Across town, Rashid was blissfully ignorant of the tempest brewing around him. He devoted the afternoon to his loved ones, grateful that the image had returned to its appropriate position. Confident that the issue had come to a close, his beloved wife, Fatima, observed his brighter spirit. "You seem so serene." "My husband," she said gently. Rashid smiled, holding on to the hope that it was indeed true. Yet, his young son, Amin, browsing through his phone upstairs. I came across in a lively Facebook thread. His eyes widened as he perused through remark after remark, blaming the place of worship, assigning fault, insisting righteousness. "Father," Amin exclaimed, hurrying down the stairs, phone in hand. "You must behold." Rashid gazed intently at the screen, each word striking him with the weight of a heavy burden. Disrespectful defilement. The place of worship. His sense of relief washed over him, transformed into a heavy burden within his heart. He murmured softly, "This cannot be true." Yet, it was a time of change in the town, and no one, neither the priest, nor the imam, nor even the tranquil visage of the Blessed Mother, could halt the spread of tales once it had commenced. By Monday morning, Springfield was no longer resembled the same quiet village. In diners, hushed conversations took the place of casual chatter. At the post office, curious glances were cast when families entered, including the little ones, observed the change. Peers who previously engaged in a joyful game of tag, now cherishing their moments together. The tale had woven itself into the fabric of whispers, and doubt was creeping in like a vine. Through brick, within the humble abode of his dwelling, Cedar Avenue, Imam Rashid found himself seated at the breakfast table, gazing at the untouched meal. Toast. His beloved Fatima gracefully offered a cup of tea before him, examining his weary eyes. "You haven't rested," she whispered gently. Rashid shook his head. "No." Their child, Amin, at the age of 19, placed his phone down on the table with a gentle thud. An expression of deep concern marked his features. "Father, they are making accusations against us. Our entire gathering." Observe. He navigated through Facebook posts brimming with frustration. Remarks, "Those individuals show a lack of respect towards us. Waste is meant to be with waste." Some were even more severe. Fatima's hands shook as she read, "This is a curse." She softly spoken, "They are rising up against us." Rashid pressed his fingers to his forehead, a sigh escaping his lips. I desired this. I believed that by bringing back in the image, I found tranquility. Yet, you have not. Share the entire tale with everyone." Amin, burdened. "Why conceal it? If you had simply explained." Rashid's voice took on a stern tone. I can't comprehend." If others were aware that I discarded, if they were to let it go first, forgiveness would not follow. Me, not the faithful, not even our own individuals. The phrases lingered with weight. For the very first time, Amani gazed upon his father, not with reverence, but with uncertainty. That, as the sun began to set, a sense of anticipation filled the air within the sacred space. Improved. Following their prayers, a group of men lingered, their faces weary and solemn. Musa, an elder with silver hair, was the first to speak. Beloved leader, the congregation is in distress. The faithful softly express that we showed a lack of reverence towards their sacred mother. What words shall we offer in the presence of Rashid? Might respond a younger individual, Kareem, only 25. He raised his voice. Why should we? Can you shed some light on this? We haven't taken any action. However, there is still hope. Now they gaze upon us as if we are wrongdoers. Should we yield to the frustration they felt? Another member of the community remarked, if we allow this to go unacknowledged, they will believe we are at fault. Every gaze turned to Rashid. His heart raced with anticipation. I felt an overwhelming desire to share it all with them. An unusual finding, the eerie stare, the midnight return, yet trepidation gripped him. What would their response be if they were aware their leader had first cast aside the image of Mariam into the refuse? He lifted his hands raised in serenity. Brothers, embrace patience. Whispers can spread like flames, illuminating the shadows. Yet they perish when the last of the wood is gone. We should refrain from fueling the fire. Placing our faith, the weight of divine justice pressed upon Kareem, his jaw tightening in response. With all due respect, Imam, silence is not righteousness. If we remain silent, they will trample upon us. His voice trembled with vibrant enthusiasm. I propose we call for we seek forgiveness. If they cast blame upon us, so be it. Demonstrate evidence. Whispers of consensus echoed among the younger men. Rashid observed the rift emerging. Wise ones, guidance and patience. Young voices eager for confrontation. The profound unity he possessed, devoted years to nurturing, yet it was beginning to fracture before his eyes. That evening, upon returning at home, Fatima faced him once more. Rashid, this cannot go on any longer. Our young ones encounter unkind words at school. Our neighbors turn their gaze away. If you understand, if you have the power to intervene, please do so. Must act. Rashid gazed at her, conflicted, caught in the delicate balance of affection and apprehension. He yearned to share one's heart, to reveal all that weighs heavy, yet shame kept him silent. Not yet. He, softly spoken, the moment has not arrived. Fatima's eyes sparkled with hope. And what if patience requires our all? In the meantime, beyond, the atmosphere at St. Martin's Parish Hall was alive with excitement. With his own turmoil, Margaret Lebreton expressed her frustration as she presented to the congregation scratched frame. Behold, they cast her in the refuse. Who else could it be? Bernard. Black struck the table with his fist. This cannot be overlooked. The description is a blank. In times of distress, when those meant to protect us seem unresponsive, we must find our own path forward. Father Anthony stepped inside. Overhearing the words, he lifted his Dear friends, I kindly urge you not to jump to reflections. The image has been, have faith in the return. That is a blessing in itself. Let us express gratitude instead of fostering discord. However, the atmosphere in the room was charged. Margaret trembled slightly as she shook her. Father, your faith in others is admirable, but perhaps a bit too trusting. Ridiculed our beliefs, and you urge us to remain quiet. Anani's expression grew tense. He endured the burden of a hidden truth. He understood Rashid's heartfelt, his remorse, yet disclosing it now could bring about the downfall of the Imam, perhaps even the delicate opportunity for healing. He embraced silence, even as it departed from him, charged with frailty. As the clock struck 12, both communities, both Muslim and Catholic, engaged, uneasy, their guides ensnared in unbreakable ties. Rashid sought solace in prayer within them. In the stillness of the night, a soft voice murmured, "O Lord, lead me on the right path." In another part of the town, Anthony followed suit. The sacred space, neither man rested. Both understood that silence would eventually give way. On a Tuesday afternoon, the burden on Imam Rashid's heart felt heavy, a burden too great to bear. With every passing hour, the air thickened with a palpable sense of unease. Throughout Springfield, children of the Muslim faith arriving home from school, tears streaming down my face, whispering the same words over and over. Harsh taunts exchanged among children on the schoolyard. Families of faith observed those living nearby with a sense of doubt. Dialogues interrupted. A moment of surprise filled the grocery store as a woman wearing a hijab walked in. Store. For Rashid, each whisper seemed like a weight bearing down on his compassion. He had guided his community with 8 years of dedicated guidance, nurturing growth, perseverance, modesty, and grace. At this moment, due to a single hasty decision, everything changed, was falling apart. That evening, following, as the Maghrib prayers approached, Rashid found himself lingering at a place of worship long after his followers had lost in thought. He remained in the front row, gazing intently at the vacant mikra, where the picture had first appeared. His prayer mat felt more burdensome than before, as though intricately crafted with shame. He whispered softly, "O Lord, please grant me your forgiveness." Text, I am uncertain about my next steps. Finally, he stood up, adjusted his garment, and came to a resolution. Quietude was no longer a choice. If honesty judged, let it be. It is preferable for one man's disgrace than the downfall of an entire community. He led, gently meandering through the town, the dusk depicting the heart of the town in warm hues of gold. His vehicle came to a halt in front of the rectory of St. Martin's Church, a humble brick dwelling next to the church tower. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. For an extended period, for several moments, he remained seated, summoning his inner strength. With a moment of reflection, he took a deep breath and stepped forward, and knocked. The door swung open to unveil Father Anthony Dubois. Unexpected revelation. The light danced upon his features. "Rashid," he said gently, "I was hoping you might come." Within, the priest guided him to a cozy room adorned with shelves filled with books, symbols, and the subtle aroma of incense. A gentle glow illuminated the wooden surface, creating a serene atmosphere. A crucifix adorned the wall as they sat facing one another, the two, an unspoken bond, lingering in the air, them like a finely stretched string. At last, Rashid spoke. His voice trembled. Father, I must, to be honest, my community is falsely charged, yet the fault lies with me. Isolated in thought, Anthony leaned forward, attentively absorbing this depiction of Mary. Rashid continued, I discovered it here in the most sacred place of my mosque. I believed it. An invitation. Ah, yes, without, in a moment of contemplation, I took it outside and cast it away. I was the one who tossed it in the trash. Yes, it was me. Her voice trembled. Yet throughout the day, her expression troubled my spirit. I found no peace until she was brought back to us. That evening, you caught a glimpse of me. You found me. Yet you were unaware of the entire narrative. Emotion filled his eyes. It was neither vandalism nor hatred. It was my vulnerability, my trepidation, and now the community bears the burden of my error. The atmosphere became hushed. Anani's face reflected a profound change. Do not let your heart be filled with anger. Rather, gentle and filled with a sense of understanding. He nodded slowly, a knowing look in his eyes. I had my suspicions all along. The priest spoke that evening. The burden in your voice revealed more than your Rashid. You have strayed from the path. Indeed. But you also did well. You guided her back. Rashid lowered his gaze. Yet they will not perceive it in that manner. For them, I am found guilty on 2 counts. The first for desecration. Once for the sake of discretion. Anthony stood up. Reaching for a book from the shelf, he turned to a cherished page and began to read with reverence. Mary is celebrated as the mother of. She is honored by all as a reflection of Jesus' love and grace. The devoted gathered as he concluded the meeting, closing the book with a sense of purpose. Rashid's eyes. You can observe even in this moment, the teachings of the church convey that she is not meant to belong to. We are not isolated. She embraces all who show reverence. Her presence was undeniable. Even to you. The Imam felt a sudden pause in his breath. Then perhaps her presence in the mosque was not a source of offense, but rather a call to embrace understanding. Anthony offered a gentle smile. Perhaps I wanted you to understand that the things that separate us is less significant than the bonds that bring us together. Rashid's hands trembled with uncertainty. But what lay ahead? Whispers abound. My community faces defamation. If they understood the reality that I had pushed her away, they may turn me away. And I fear rejection. Anthony rested a gentle hand on his shoulder. Then let us share the truth together. Not as a mother and a minister in contrast. Yet, as brothers, let us demonstrate what you just revealed to me, that Mary guides us nearer, not distant. The reflection made Rashid's heart quicken. To be present in a member of the church sharing his transgressions with a priest, countless faithful gathered. It was incomprehensibly. His entire essence withdrew. Yet a profound yearning awakened within. A gentle nudge, a call not of dread, but of bravery. He nodded gently. Tears streamed down his cheeks. Indeed, if her message resonates deeply within me, and I cannot turn away from it, I will embrace it. Father Anoni's eyes sparkled with a deep, reflective light. As we unite in faith, let us stand together. Springfield witnesses firsthand what the essence of healing unfolds. As the evening settles in, as Rashid stepped back into the comforting embrace of the warmth, on an Iowa night, The air carried a sense of lightness. The heavens loomed wide above it, adorned with countless stars, blinking like vigilant sentinels. He understood the journey ahead may be challenging. Yet, for the first time since that morning, when he, discarding the image of Mary, his heart ached, guided, not by fear, but by unwavering truth. Sunday morning broke with a radiant light over Springfield, Iowa. Yet amidst the bustling streets surrounding St. Martin Church, there lingered an unusual weight in the atmosphere. Families gathered with anticipation, arriving earlier than usual. Soft murmurs moving swiftly beyond. Greetings. News had traveled far and wide. Something extraordinary was on the verge of unfolding during the service. The place of worship, typically accommodating 200, the congregation grew, nearly doubling in size. Extra chairs filled the aisles, and individuals gathered at the rear, stretching their necks to. At the front pew sat the priest, Anthony, his demeanor serene, yet his hands clasped tightly, as if preparing for something significant, for a tempest. Next to him, clad in a simple dark suit devoid of his imam's robe, sat Rashid Mansouri. His shoulders were anxious, his gaze cast down, each pulse resonating, thumping steadily within him, echoing with fervor. The whispers traveled swiftly, igniting curiosity and intrigue. That's what brings him here. Is he present for a reason? To clarify, as the opening hymn came to a close, Father Anthony approached the pulpit with a sense of purpose. His voice resonated with a profound weight that quieted the assembly. My beloved brethren and beloved companions in faith, he began. Today we come together not only for the celebration of the Eucharist, but for something remarkable. We come together to listen to the truth. For even when it is difficult, it holds great significance. Restore. He motioned softly in Rashid's direction. This is Imam Rashid, the shepherd of our community. Neighbors from a different faith have requested a conversation. I invite you to listen with open hearts. Gasps echoed through the congregation. Every gaze turned toward Rashid as he stood up gradually. His legs quivered. For an extended moment, he stood still. The wooden pulpit before him, the gathering of hopeful souls. Beyond, then, gathering every bit of, with great courage, he began. My friends, he spoke gently, his voice warm, yet firm, steady. I approach you not as an adversary, yet as a companion, and I must be honest with you. He took a moment, the silence so profound that even the gentle murmur of the sound of the pews filled the air. This image of Mary, your sacred mother, graced my mosque with her presence. One morning, I found myself puzzled by the events unfolding around me. I was afraid it was a jest, so I cast it aside. A sudden whisper echoed. Amidst the throng, expressions grew tense. A few, in disbelief, others in fury. Rashid lifted a quivering hand. Kindly listen to the rest. From the moment I let her go, I was a restless turmoil within me. The gaze she held was unsettling, lingering in my thoughts. I recalled the teachings of our sacred scripture. States that Mariam, the mother of Isa, he is the embodiment of purity, divinely selected and lifted to the highest place. All women. She is revered in a significant faith as she is in the faith. He opened a small book from his pocket, his voice overwhelmed as he read in Arabic. Then in, O Mary, truly, you have been selected by God You have been refined, selected, and set apart above the women of the worlds. The church was enveloped in a profound silence. Numerous, the faithful gathered, eager to hear, as if receiving these words for the. It was his first time. Rashid's voice trembled with emotion. That evening, I came back. I drew her close. From the refuse with my own hands. I could not allow her to stay in that place. And I returned her to this sacred place. Father, Anthony caught sight of me. He understands. The clergyman nodded with reverence. Rashid continued, his with eyes shining brightly. I share this not to. I must take a moment to reflect and share my truth. For I was incorrect. I allowed fear to overshadow belief. Yet Mariam, did not allow me. She called me back. And now I am ready to move forward. Have faith in. She did not arrive to create discord. Us. But to reveal the bonds that bring us together. For a prolonged moment, there was stillness. Then, from the middle pew, Margaret Retton, the same, a woman who was the first to raise the alarm, rose to her feet, her eyes glistening with emotion. I long for your presence. Mansouri, she whispered gently, your sincerity moves us deeply. Should our beloved lady came to you, then maybe she desired us to embrace this truth. I forgive you. Others began to nod. Whispers of an unexpected harmony began to unfold. Then, remarkably, Bernard Black, the former soldier who had called for change, rose to his feet. His voice was challenging yet unwavering. It requires bravery to acknowledge a misstep before everyone gathered. Your humility is truly commendable. Imam, something this town truly yearns for. A gentle wave of applause began to emerge. Tentative at initially, then growing until the entirety. The echoes filled the sacred space. Rashid knelt in reverence, almost gave way. A wave of relief washing over at him like refreshing rain. Father Anthony moved ahead, gently resting a hand on the. Do you see? My dear friends, this is the essence of truth. It does not to break down. It brings restoration. Today, Mary has revealed us that she is not only a nurturing figure of believers, yet the matriarch of us all. Rashid dried his eyes and then began to speak. Final sentence. If she has selected me to share this message, and then I shall not be quietly. May her love serve as the connection among us. The congregation stirred once more in applause, resonating with a fervor unmatched. Unknown figure grasped his hand warmly. Members of the congregation shared heartfelt embraces. Him, for the first time, individuals of the Islamic faith who had approached softly to observe from the rear of the congregation felt tears welling within their hearts. Eyes. In that moment, the whisper that had almost divided Springfield completely, like a fleeting whisper and a gentle breeze. What lingered was something deeper than doubt, something that resembled a profound sense of hope. The applause resonated within the walls of St. Martin, resonated as Rashid took a step back from the pulpit. His legs quivered. Yet my heart felt unexpectedly buoyant, as if the heavy chain had finally broken. The priest, Anthony, placed a reassuring hand on an arm, gently leading him back to the forefront. In the quiet of the moment, the two men remained still, lost in thought, united in quietude, allowing the assembly inhaled the moment that had just unfolded. Occurred, yet a feeling awakened within Rashid's heart was stirred by a gentle nudge, a soft voice guiding him. He could not overlook. He had sought forgiveness. Indeed, he understood that confession was just one part of a greater journey, was insufficient. Words may diminish over time. Memories may fade. Springfield was in need, more than a fleeting release of emotion. It longed for a vibrant symbol, something that could endure beyond whispers and trepidation. He ascended once more. He lifted his hand with care. Hushed, the whispers faded. Inquisitive gazes, fixating on him. Rashid inhaled deeply. Breath, my dear brothers and sisters. He began, voice more assured now. I must share. Mary continues to communicate with me. Ever since that day, in my prayers, in the stillness, her likeness has come back once more. And once more, I sense she is inquiring for a deeper purpose. Not merely, the journey of healing begins today, leading to a tomorrow filled with hope. Our little ones will no longer flourish. In a moment of tension, the congregation awaited the unfolding of events. Rashid's gaze moved across the gathered faithful. Then he turned toward Father Anthony. What if we created something together? Not a mosque, not a church, but a sanctuary, a sacred space for Mary. Mariam, a realm of connection, our two places of reverence where all are welcome. Believers of various faiths, including those who may not adhere to any religion, trust, may gather to seek solace, to find peace, to discover tranquility. He took a moment, his expressions immersed in a beautiful garden of roses, akin to one she is frequently depicted alongside, a statue of Mary at its center, her arms extended to all her children, and at the foundation, an inscription crafted in both English and Arabic. Our Lady Mariam, Mother of Restoration. A shared breath of astonishment swept across the bull assembly. Some appeared astonished, while others nodded slowly, tears brimming in his eyes. The priest, Anoni's face lit up with a joyful smile. Half surprise, a touch of happiness. Margaret, Leberton, steadfastly positioned near the Elle. She placed her hand on her chest. A garden, she murmured softly to herself. Bernard Black, the resilient, the veteran, stood with his arms folded, deep in thought. Are you referring to the collaboration between Muslims and Catholics? Shall we create something together? Together. Indeed. N. Rashid responded with conviction, standing together, nurturing blooms, arranging pathways, tending with care, the earth united. Not merely a representation of what unitesus, but of the bonds we hold dear, honor for the mother of our Savior, Mariam, who is a part of our shared journey. For a moment, the congregation fell into a profound silence. Then a retired educator named Marie DuPont rose to her feet, her voice quivering with emotion. That is truly lovely. Our little ones could engage in joyful activities there. Our grandchildren might discover there. EFM. A surge of whispers filled the air. Hands were lifted, heads turned, nodded, and gradually, the careful flicker of a spark transformed into a beacon of hope. Father Anthony approached the pulpit. His voice was filled with warmth. My dear friends, do you see what is unfolding? Mary is feeling unsettled. Through the power of her voice, she beckons us to create something enduring, a sanctuary for tranquility, a sanctuary for Springfield. I am convinced that this is beyond mere human design. It is grace. The sanctuary resonated with joyful applause. Once more, this time not solely for bravery, revealed through a shared vision. In the back pew, Imam Rashid's child gazed in awe at his father. Just a few days previously, he had posed questions to him, even questioned him. Now he softly spoke to his mother. He is transforming everything. Fatima gently brushed away the tears that stained her cheeks, softly responding, "No, my child. Mary is a figure of grace and devotion, transforming all things through his grace." When the service concluded, the notion had begun to form foundation. Faithful gathered closely, Rashid and Father Anthony sharing their gifts, earth, wealth, work. Here are a few recommendations. Charitable gatherings. Some offering their time, their gardens for cuttings of roses. It felt as if the gentle whisper of Mary had traveled far and wide, beyond Rashid's heart into the hearts of others, encouraging them to take action. Upon the steps of at St. Martin's, the June sun radiated with a warm and inviting glow. Above Springfield, individuals who have just a few days, in times past, they would have avoided each other's gaze. In the gaze now, clasped hands, shared figures, and shared tales of earth, tools, and blooms. Rashid gazed across the plaza, where the humble exterior of the morning light graced the Asalam Mosque. Illumination, for the first time since he had embarked on his journey, came to this town many years ago. The sight filled him not with tension, but with hope. He spoke in hushed tones, almost to himself. "Mariam, this is your labor." Not for himself, and deep within, he experienced it once more. That peculiar fragment resembling a mother's warm embrace. In the times that followed, Springfield was alive with an energy it had never experienced before. The concept of Mary's garden blossomed from the pews to verandas, from the place of worship's prayer area to the counter stools at the diner. What started as a bold idea during the service swiftly emerged as the soul of the community. On a gentle Saturday morning, the very first dedicated individuals came together on the vacant stretch of land between St. Martin's community, a place of worship, and a Salam mosque, a small area, the grass that has been overlooked for far too long, more thorns than blossoms. Now it was meant to be metamorphosis. The place felt almost otherworldly. Faithful gathered in casual attire, donning jeans and sun hats, bearing tools of labor, fathers of the Muslim faith in the workforce, sturdy footwear guiding the wheelbarrows forward, young individuals from both communities working together to transport mulch. Together, a devoted farmer brought his tractor to prepare the land, while a mechanic of the Muslim faith generously offered his tools for crafting the wooden edges. Joyful moments. The sound of labor and the rhythm of craftsmanship transformed. Whispers and stillness. Rashid toiled diligently, side by side with Bernard Black, the seasoned warrior who just days prior had expressed their feelings with such intensity. As they journeyed, as they raised the stones in unison, Bernard shattered, the stillness accompanied by a low sound. "I never imagined I'd be out here cultivating a beautiful garden with a spiritual leader." Rashid offered a gentle smile, carefully wiping. The perspiration trickled down his forehead. "I didn't either." Bernard took a moment to reflect, then extended half a grin. "It seems that Mary has a unique approach to unexpected tales of seasoned warriors." From that moment, in that instant, the two men labored together as if they were seasoned companions. friends, the walls of suspicion falling apart gradually, piece by piece. Close by, Margaret Liberton knelt alongside Fatima, Rashid's beloved spouse, tending to the delicate rose bushes with care. Margaret, who had once been the most boisterous in pointing fingers at the followers of Islam, now discovered she found herself sharing gentle laughter with Fatima as they shared their cherished methods for making bread and tea. When Fatima's headscarf fell away, the breeze, Margaret naturally assisted. Refine it. Her gesture gentle and silent. Little ones were the first to set aside past separation completely. Faithful, boys and girls of faith, playfully pursued one another. Others with watering cans, joyfully squealing when someone experienced a sudden splash. At a certain moment, a young girl named Grace offered a rose, introducing a young boy named Yusuf from the Muslim faith. "You should plant this one," she suggested, in a straightforward manner. "It will flourish more if you do." As the sun set, the rugged terrain has undergone a profound change. Frames crafted from wood, beautifully defined. The flower beds, winding trails meandered through narratives. And at the heart stood the pedestal awaits the arrival of the statue of Mary. Surrounding it, newly planted roses of every hue, crimson, ivory, golden, and, in the quiet of the evening, they bowed their heads in reverence. Gentle wind. Yet the change was not exclusively within the earth. It resided within the hearts of the community. Long-standing disputes that had endured through the ages appeared to warm in the gentle light of the garden. An elderly widow found peace and healing with her chosen daughter after they planted roses in harmony. A man of faith who found himself wandering from his spiritual path, from belief, discovered a revitalized mission, carrying stones for the garden. Narratives such as these grew in number until the townsfolk started to refer to them as small wonders. Local reporters showed up, capturing images of women in veils holding rosaries, holding onto grandmothers as they kneel in the same soil. The title in the Prosby, Springfield Gazette reported, "Mary's, from whispers to harmony in the garden." National outlets quickly took notice, reporting, "It is a wondrous event in Iowa." For Rashid, a day in the garden felt like a sacred moment of reflection, movement. He frequently took a moment to observe the moment, faithful souls softly singing sacred melodies as they rooted, believers whispering softly, "In the name of the most gracious." They toiled together, distinct languages, equal respect. He reflected on his grandmother's words, "Honor Mariam. She is a part of our shared journey," and felt them spring to life right before his eyes. As the evening approached, the sun dipped low, casting a warm golden hue across the horizon. In the midst of the cornfields, Father Anthony became a part of the community. Rashid stands at the heart of the incomplete journey. The garden. They stood in quiet contemplation, gazing at the base prepared for the figure. At last, Anthony uttered, "Do you perceive what has transpired? Dear brother, the deed that what once nearly separated us has now blossomed into the seed of something sacred." Rashid nodded slowly. "Indeed, Mary transformed my error into her own, an extraordinary event." And truly, Springfield started to transform. Strain at the market, comforted. Young ones who were once mocked for their faith now expressed openly. Even in the digital realm, the unkind remarks diminished, giving way to images of roses flourishing in rich earth. The miracle unfolded quietly, without the dramatic flair of a thunderclap. the divine realm or a vision in the sky. It was more serene, modest, neighbors, reconnecting in a profound way. Hands that once gripped by doubt, now hardened through collective effort. The essence of Springfield was a profound transformation. And at the heart of it all stood Mary, patiently awaiting her moment. Her arms soon to be lifted in stone, embracing all her beloved children. As time passed, in July, Springfield underwent a remarkable transformation. The once a narrow stretch of land between St. Martin Church and the Asylum, the mosque had flourished into a sanctuary that appeared truly extraordinary. Winding trails meandered among blooming roses, crimson, ivory, and golden hues, nurtured by the hands of neighbors who had only weeks previously had hardly exchanged words with one another. At the heart stood the marble statue of Mary, with her arms gracefully extended, welcome, her gaze filled with peace. At her foundation, the plaque was inscribed in both English and Arabic, Our Lady Mariam, Mother of Restoration. On the morning of the sacred dedication, the town brimmed with visitors. Vehicles lined the streets, the winding paths of the countryside. News vehicles stationed nearby, the square, where families brought their blankets, seats to the location, almost 3,000 individuals. United, believers, followers, individuals from various denominations, and even those without any devotion, all captivated by the narrative that had engaging narratives. The ceremony commenced in the presence of the Bishop of Des Moines and a representative of the faith community in North America. United together, the bishop raised his hands in a gesture of blessing as the imam beautifully recited a verse from the Two Voices, Two Beliefs, a shared moment of togetherness. The assembly became quiet, with numerous individuals shedding tears down their cheeks. Then Father Anthony moved ahead, his voice resonating throughout the garden. This garden stands as a testament. That which was once intended to create separation has become a symbol of tranquility. Our Lady has not forsaken Springfield. She has welcomed us with open arms. He looked at Rashid, who remained a step behind, and it was our brother Imam Rashid, a figure of great bravery, to unveil the truth. A stillness took the stage with a sense of purpose. As Rashid grasped the microphone, he gazed upon the gathering, individuals of diverse faiths and background, Kofis, faithful individuals clutching their rosaries, little ones perched high on shoulders, reporters jotting down notes. The voice quivered, yet became more resolute with every single word. 6 weeks ago, I cast this aside, the image of Mary discarded carelessly. Today I stand before you to share that she cast me aside. Into compassion, she embraced me, drawn me closer, and through her, the divine has transformed regret into healing. He paused, his eyes shimmering with emotion. This garden is not mine, nor yours. It belongs to her. A blessing bestowed upon Springfield, a symbol of what separates us is never mightier than the deep affection of a mother that unites us all. Applause resonated, echoing through an assembly flowing like a tide. Devout grandmothers welcomed women in hijabs with open arms. Children from both traditions ran with joy through the fragrant paths of blossoms. Even Bernard Black, the seasoned and somewhat cantankerous figure, wiped, his eyes opened wide, softly murmuring, I suppose miracles often arrive without divine illumination. They arrive adorned with delicate rose petals. As the statue was revealed, the choir started to sing Ave Maria in English. Then, effortlessly, a gathering of young individuals from the Muslim community shared beautiful passages from the story of Mary. The two melodies intertwined distinct tongues, variat harmonious, yet remarkably united. The assembly stood to their HFE, with hands raised and hearts wide open. In that moment, Springfield stood united. By pews or prayer rugs, it was one, a family united in the warmth of a mother's loving gaze. As the sun began to set, images capturing the solemn dedication emerged. Overwhelmed social media, believers and individuals of different faiths coming together to cultivate beauty in the world. The statue shines brightly under the warm embrace of the Iowa sun. Young ones clasping their hands together in unity before the plaque, the headline in the Springfield Gazette read, Mary's Garden opens a miracle of togetherness. And as the gathering scattered, Rashid remained still at the boundary of the garden, with his beloved Fatima by his side. She held his hand tightly, softly saying, "You have been selected for this purpose." Rashid shook his head gently. His eyes, reflecting a deep sense of understanding, gazed upon the statue. Indeed, Mary was selected. In response to this, we simply heeded her call. The day concluded not with separation, but with flowers blossoming, hopes ascending, and individuals departing as friends. Springfield had experienced a wondrous event, not of thunder and fire, yet of restoration, and compassion. If this tale resonated, pause for a moment and let your heart resonate with this. Watch the video and consider subscribing to Touched by Grace. Together, let us recount more heartfelt narratives of faith, compassion, and contemporary wonders